Welcome to InVeris Training Solutions. My name is Jay.
My name is Nick Breeden.
We're going to be going over BlueFire weapons today, just to explain to you the capabilities and all of the features surrounding the BlueFire weapon systems. We're going to go ahead and start off with the M4 rifle. For all intensive purposes, these are live weapons at one point in time, and when we bring them into the factory, what we do is we actually demill them. We take all the internal working components and we retrofit it with our internals as far as sensors, pneumatics, and all the technology needed to communicate with our simulator. So for example, when this weapon system communicates wirelessly with our actual simulator, it knows its weapon status. So it knows that there's no magazine in the chamber. It knows the bolt position, whether it's to the rear, whether it's forward. It knows the safety position, whether it's on safe or on fire. It knows that when I load this magazine, that weapon is loaded, but it will not fire just like it does in real life when there's nothing in the actual chamber. I would have to actually load it, take the weapon off safe, and sit here and fire. So now recoil is about 60 to 70%, just enough recoil to break your sight alignment side picture. It's kind of the way that technology works. If you're wondering how the recoil happens, the recoil works through compressed air. You'll see a lot of different companies out there, they'll use CO2 or different things like that. The problem with CO2 is when you start shooting a lot, obviously it freezes, then the temperature goes back up and down. That ends up damaging O-rings. We solve that by using compressed air in the magazine. Here's our fill station. What we do is we take out this one adapter, put in our adapter for the M4, grab the magazine, put it in here like so, hold it down, 1, 2, 3. That gives us enough air for about 60 shots. Now, granted, our system is very smart, so it knows that when I load this magazine, it is a 30-round magazine. Once I fire all those rounds out, the weapon system will actually lock back to the rear, forcing that student to drop the mag, grab another magazine, and reload it, just like you do in real life. So the understanding is that you have fit, form, and function of an actual weapon system. So everything that you do to that live rifle, you have to do it to this one in order for it to fire. That's how the skill transfers over from simulation into live fire. Anything else to add on that, Nick?
We'll talk about the Glock 17 here. So just like Jay was talking about with the M4, we're also able to do everything we do on a long rifle into semi-automatic handguns. So these compressed air that is used in the magazine, we're able to put it in, and as he said, the weapon knows that the slide is locked to the rear. You'd have to send the slide forward to be able to actually chamber around. And then just like in real life, you get about 60% of recoil, just enough to use that sight picture as he was talking about, and the weapon system would actually know that the magazine is out and the weapon is in a locked to the rear in a safe position. So everything, as he was saying, you would do with a live weapon on the range, you would also do on our training simulator as well.
So an example real quick to show you with the Glock, you hand me that other magazine, Nick. If the student came in here, loaded, rocked it forward, and actually fired, it'll automatically lock back to the rear, all right? You can drop that magazine, grab another magazine, insert it, rock it, and continue to fire. So as far as being realistic, you can even drop these magazines. These magazines are drop tested hundreds of times from about 6 feet high. So they're very durable, you're not gonna damage them, just like real mags. So you don't have to be scared not to function it like you really would. So actually work it, work the weapon, and continue to fire. Again, we're trying to simulate the real thing. So the minute we don't do something that we do in real life, it's negative training. So we avoid doing that here at InVeris Training Solutions. The next thing we're going to talk about is the different style of weapons, right? We have the M4 style, M16 styles. We have the Glock 17s, the 19s. We have different model SIGs. For example, here we have the new SIG M18, which is one of the variations that the U.S. military is going to. The U.S. Army is doing the M17s, which is slightly longer, which we do have as well. The Air Force is going with the M18s, right? Our systems also allow you to put a rear sight on here. As you can see, this weapon system has a rear sight, a holographic optic here placed on the system. Same, magazine, insert it, rock it, and you can actually fire. You'll hear the effects on the simulator itself. Again, everything works realistic as can be, just like its live counterpart. The way the system works with our simulator is that the system is so smart, it actually has ballistics incorporated into the system. So we're not just shooting a laser at the screen, right? The system detects the laser, and the laser is constantly tracking onto the screen. So some of the differences that we'll go into here in a little bit is the difference between a pulsating laser and an actual constant laser that sits there and stays on all the time, right? And then the ones that actually pull the trigger and it gives you a shot placement. Our lasers are constantly on, so we're constantly tracking your barrel movement, your sight alignment, and your sight picture. So using that tracking and our analysis, we're able to see the after action of that shot and throughout the entire actual shooting and aiming process. Therefore, we understand what you're doing right or you're doing wrong, and we're able to coach you and fix it that way.
One thing also important to mention with all of the live fire weapons is all the lasers are eye-safe lasers. So a lot of our competitors are using unsafe lasers that would affect eye damage. We actually have found a way to incorporate our lasers to where at any given time, if there was a point where you accidentally flagged somebody or if somebody was downrange and you did shoot, that laser that's always tracking is a safe laser. So the other thing we have, aside from our live fire weapons that we do in the virtual world, we're also able to replicate all less lethal options. So you see here we have the Taser X26. What we're able to do is take a battery powered cartridge and we put it on the end of it. And just like in the real world, you would have to turn that laser on. Right here, we're reading in the display port. We're able to see that the battery is fully charged and that there is a cartridge inside the Taser. So we would be able to pull that, and if you were on the projection system, you would actually hear those, the Taser deployment, and you would hear the barbs inside the scenario that you were in. We also offer less lethal OC, as well as different models of the Taser, such as the X2 and so on and so forth.
Some of the sensors that we have inside of these weapons, for example, the rifle, the Taser, we have accelerometers, right? So what that does to us, it actually helps us identify the cant angle of that firearm or that weapon. So when shooting a rifle and you start canting it left or right, that actually changes some of the trajectory in its ballistics. The system knows that and it applies those ballistics. When it comes to the Taser X26P over here, it also has an accelerometer. Anybody that deals with tasers understands that we have two prongs that comes out of the end of this taser. So when I sit here and put this cartridge in here and I go to deploy it, if I hold it perfectly vertical, those two prongs are gonna come out vertical. If I sit here and cant the taser, anybody that understands, again, tasers understands that bottom prong will cant in real life. Our system also applies those ballistics and understands the cant angle that you have. So if you sit here and you have it at the wrong angle and you sit here and deploy it, it will actually spread the barbs depending on the angle and you will get a miss. You won't get a connection. As far as distance goes into play from the suspect, it also brings in that barb spread closer or wider when you fire. So covering that, again, BlueFire weapon fidelity is very high, fit, form, and function. You're gonna get one-for-one transition as far as real skills from the virtual simulator into your live fire training. So the other thing I want to talk about today is insert kits. A lot of people look at different pricing out there in the market and they'll say, wow, these are very expensive compared to insert kits. So let me explain to you the difference. We also offer different insert kits as well as a low-cost solution into the market, but understand that there are some drawbacks from it. Again, for example, this is one of the magazines that we have here. It contains a CO2 cartridge. Again, like I mentioned earlier, CO2 freezes and the temperature rises again and it freezes again. That damages O-rings. Over time, you're gonna start spending a lot of money on maintenance and O-rings and different things like that. There's two ways of using insert kits. You can either use a live weapon or this model right here is an airsoft style weapon as well. Same thing, you basically take out the barrel mechanism in here. You'll drop in a simulator barrel with a laser on the end of it. The only difference, these lasers, I'd say they're more like dumb lasers versus our smart lasers that constantly track. These, once you sit here, you insert a magazine and you let it rock, it will have the laser on the end of it, right? When I squeeze the trigger, click, it'll give me one ping on that screen. Every time I pull the trigger, you're gonna get one shot placement onto the screen. There's no analytics. It's more for target practice and your training or your point and shoot and or your use of force scenarios if that's what you're trying to do, but you're not really gonna get further on analytics out of it. Again, the one drawback is that we're also using CO2, so you're gonna have to pay for it, you're gonna have to buy CO2, and then the drawback of actually having those O-rings and different things like that go bad on the system.
So as Jay was saying with our BlueFire weapons, where we have a continuous pulsating laser that's tracking at all times on the projection-based system, this is just a shot and a dot on a screen. So not as high fidelity. Again, it's a lower cost to get into the market, but it can still be effective if given the right training standards.
One of the things you guys may have noticed here, and I'll come back to the M4 rifle, is we have an optic on here. The system works very well with iron sights. It works well with optics, holographic optics, or anything like that. You'll run through the same zero process that you would do on a live fire range, zero your scope, and it'll transition over to the virtual world as far as ballistic goes.
And one more important thing to mention covering our BlueFire weapons is that once converted into the virtual weapon system that we offer, it can never again be converted back into a live weapon. So once we take all the live fire internals out, it will never again fire a live round.
So we not only offer our BlueFire weapon simulators, as you can see here, we have an M4, we have a Glock 17, we do make the Glock 19s, we have the SIG M18 here, we make the 17, we make the civilian version, which is a P320. We also make different Smith & Wessons, the standard M9 from Beretta, the multiple foreign weapons as well, as far as the SA-80 for the UK. We also make the shotgun, the M500 by Mossberg. So reach out to us. We have several different models that are available. Let us know and we'll be able to handle that for you guys. Thank you.